Hi there. So I have decided that this year I'm going to 2024. Um, I'm going to try and go through all of my books that I've read. So in the past I've done like quarterly wrap-ups, and I've done my top 10ish favorite reads and my top 10ish my bottom 10ish lowest reads. Um, but just the more I think about it, like I want to know what people just thought was meh. Like I don't want to waste my time on meh things. Um, so I'm gonna go try and go through them all. If it gets way too long and I can't remember things. Oh crap! I need a new cord. One sec. All right, I'm back. My computer's died, so I plugged it back in. Hopefully, it'll turn on back soon, so I can look at my Storygraph. But as I was saying, I'm going to do all the books that I read. So first, it's the end of February. Actually, no, it's March now. It's March. Okay, so there's going to be 2 videos coming up quick for January and February. I'll just do the January's today. Hopefully I'll do all of them. If not, they'll be January 2 parts because I think I read a lot of books. Does it say on here? I'm going to be looking at, 16 books. I'm going to be looking at my computer down here, so that's why I'm looking down here all the time. Sorry. But I'll just go in the order I read them in, whatever that's called. Chronological? I don't know. But the first up, I finished Neon Gods. This is book 1 in the Dark Olympus series. It's kind of like if you had the Greek gods in like a contemporary setting, and they weren't really gods. So they're like positions of power in the city, and they're either hereditary or you can inherit them. And it's just the position that you control for the city. Like there's kind of like the mayor is Zeus, and his wife is always Hera. And there's different ones. I can't remember all their names right now, but there's one that like does all of the like military. There's one that gets all of the resources, like the food and stuff. There's another one who does like the spying type things. And so they're all the different Greek gods, but they're not actually gods. They're just people that have these titles, and that's their position of power. And so it's a spicy romance series. So each book in this series follows a different couple, different romance plotline. The first one I actually read was book like 5 or something. I didn't realize I was reading book 5. It was just like recommended that somebody read it. Oh, this was a good one, so I read it, and it was good. I liked it. I liked it enough to continue or start at the beginning, I guess it would be. So I started book 1, and book 1 is about Hades and Persephone and their story. Their story, the whole thing is that Hades is like in the lower section of the city. Like he's seen as, well, everybody actually believes he's dead. And then when she finds out that he's not dead, which is like the beginning, he's seen as like not worthy, not as good, and he runs a sex club. And so it's their whole romance, and it's kind of like risky voyeurism type stuff. So that one was good. I didn't like it as much as the other one that I read, but I gave it 3.5 stars. Next I read Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. Oh yeah, and Katie Robert is the one who read Dark Olympus. But Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. I've heard a lot of T. Kingfisher writes a lot of books, but they're all like shorter. And most of them, if not all of them, are standalones. This one was about a girl who performs these feats of magic that nobody really believes she can. She's a princess, and she has to try and save her sisters that are being married off to this cruel king. And their mother is doing this to the sisters, and the main girl, I don't even remember her name, I'm sorry, thinks that her mom is just being cruel, but they're just trying to save the kingdom. The king has way more power, and they'll just overrun the family's small kingdom if they don't marry him. So she's trying to defeat him and save her sisters and save herself, pretty much. So that one I gave 4.5 stars to. I liked it. It was interesting. There's some other little like subplot storylines going on, and a lot of good relationships. The people that she meets are Like it's like a found family little clan that goes on their merry way. And there's cool magic systems and everything, so I liked it a lot. And it's a standalone, so they're easy to read. Next is Guild, The Plated Prisoner, Book 1, by Raven Kennedy. These I liked a lot. They're kind of mass, like Sarah J. Maas type books. It starts out with this girl who is a royal concubine, essentially. She is, it's kind of like a King Midas retelling. The king can turn things to gold, and she's his golden, what are they called? Saddle? Yeah, golden saddle. That's what they call the concubines, is the saddles. She's his golden saddle, so she's the precious one. But she's actually locked away in a cage. And so she can't touch anyone or interact with anyone else, and she's like has this part of the palace that's caged off, and she just walks in between different sections of the room that's all in cages, so she never like touches anyone other than the king who comes in. And it's like major Stockholm syndrome type thing, but it's really good. I actually read a few of these, I think this month, January. So I gave that one 4.25 stars. I liked it a lot. And I kept on reading. Yeah. Next, I read Everybody in My Family Has Killed Someone. This one I listened to on audiobook, actually. It is by Benjamin Stevenson. This one I don't think I'll be continuing on. It's apparently #1 in a series. Ernest Cunningham, #1. But it's about this guy. It's kind of told in a cheeky tone. It starts out, he's talking about how it's going to follow the I don't know, I guess there's rules of murder mysteries, and you have to follow these rules to be a true murder mystery. And so he starts out the book and he's like, it won't be anyone you don't know, you'll meet them before this point in the story, blah blah. I don't know, there's a bunch of rules. But the whole premise is that everybody in the family has killed someone, whether on purpose or on accident. And then there is a family reunion when one of them is getting out of jail, and then somebody ends up dead. And so everybody's kind of obsessed back because they've all killed someone, and so you're trying to figure out who killed the new person and who the new person was, because you don't know who that new person is either. And I gave this one 3.75 stars, which seems like a lot, actually. I don't remember it being that good. I remember being like maybe 3.5 stars, but apparently rounded up at the time. I don't know. Next, I read The Will of the Many, which I loved. 5 stars. Great book. It's a chunky one, 630 pages. James Islington is the one who wrote it. It is a book in a series. The series will be The Hierarchy #1. This is #1. But it is Roman inspired, and it's about this boy who doesn't want to take Will. So he was the prince to a kingdom before this hierarchy started taking over. And the hierarchy is built in like a pyramid scheme, and the people at the bottom have to give Will, and then the people at the top get a combination of the will from all the people. So the top people at the very top are like superhuman strength because they get the will, which is kind of like the soul or like power. And like the more will you get, you sometimes have like supernatural powers, and sometimes you're just really strong. But the more will you get, the higher up you go. And so he was a prince, so he probably his family was all killed by this hierarchy, and so he's been blending in at the bottom of the infrastructure just so he didn't get killed off. But now this higher up guy, I think he's maybe 5 or 6, can't quite remember, but he's higher up in the pyramid scheme, finds him and adopts him because he wants to send him into this school where they train kids to be in high up positions. So the new dad, doesn't have any kids of his own, and so he adopts this boy to try and infiltrate the school and learn things about the school, because at this school his brother was killed at 15 years ago or something like that, so they tried to unearth some conspiracy. So it's very intriguing. It's pretty fast paced, and it's definitely gonna like open up, I can tell, more in the future. There's gonna be a whole lot more going on. It's like spoilery if I tell you, but it's good. Read it. Next, I read Glint, which is number 2 in that Blighted Prisoner series. This one I gave 4.25 again, and I can't tell too much because it's book 2, but it just continues to build on the main character's storyline and brings extra new people in, and they start branching out into other kingdoms. In the first book, they're primarily just in kingdom number 6. I think it is 7 or 6. I think 6. And then they start branching out into other kingdoms in the later books. Then I tried The Last Siren. So I do a lot of Kickstarter backing things, and I've started test driving, sampling books that I can find on Kindle Unlimited first, because some of the books that I kickstart, I'll kickstart books if I have any interest in them, just because I like supporting authors, and sometimes that's the best or easiest way for them to get their books published, and so I like backing things on Kickstarter. But I've started sometimes proofreading them if I can on Kindle Unlimited, so I found there was going to be a bind up, I believe, of these books, and I decided not to back it, I don't think, because I didn't love it. But the first book is The Lost Siren in the Rise of the Drakens series. I gave it a 2.75. It was fine. I did download the second book just because it kind of ends on a cliffhanger, and I'm not opposed to it. It was fine for a simple, easy read. It's like a spicy dragon romance, but the premise seemed okay. It just was too on the head, not good. Definitely an easy romance read, but not enough depth of plot for me, compared to The Will of the Many. But it's pretty much this girl was a slave at this one house in the human world, and then these Drakens came by and brought her to their world, and she is supposed to be the savior to the race. The dragons haven't been able to, Drakens are dragons, haven't been able to breed in, I don't remember how many years, but hundreds of years. And so they're hoping that she will be their savior and have all their dragon babies. And at first she's like, no, I'm not going to be your breeder. And then she's like, okay, sure. I don't know. But yeah, it was fine. Then I reread House of Earth and Blood, Crescent City number 1 by Sarah J. Maas, because number 3 just came out. There they are. I love Crescent City. I give it 5 stars every time. It's my favorite series of all time, probably. It's great. I love Bryce. I love Hunt. I love the friendships, and I love all the side characters. There's a little bit of spice in it, not crazy amount. Great plot lines still, just with a little bit of spice here and there. 5 stars. I don't care if there's haters out there. I love Sarah J. Maas. Then I read King's Cage, which is number 3 in the Red Queen series. I really liked Red Queen. Well, not really, but I liked it. Number 2 was good, and number 3 just fell short. It felt like middle book syndrome. But it's getting towards the end of the series, so I don't know why it felt like middle book syndrome. I don't know. I just didn't like it. I barely finished it. It was audio even, and I couldn't do it. I gave it a 2.75, and I won't be continuing, so that's too bad. But the Red Queen, if you want to start it, I liked book 1, and maybe you'll like it more. I know my friend read it, and she liked it more than I did. Well, book 3. But the Red Queen is about a dystopian society, and there are red bloods and silver bloods, I believe. Red bloods are normal people, and silver bloods have powers. And then all of a sudden, this girl with red blood has powers, and they're all like, what? And they're trying to marry her off to the king to make her seem like she actually has silver blood to hide it. And it's a whole conspiracy thing, and then it just branches out from there in the later books. But yeah, I like the first 2. Number 3 just wasn't doing it for me. Next, we're on January 19th, so we're getting there. Was The Dance Teacher of Paris. This one I listened to as well, by Suzanne Fortin. I gave 3.5 stars to. It's a World War II story about this woman who worked at a school. Her father was the head master, and she was one of the teachers. She taught like classes, and then she taught dance class after school too. And it's her story about how she tried to help some Jewish kids and their moms during the occupation. So it was good. It was, the whole heart-wrenching thing. I didn't love it was a split timeline story. It was like back then, and then it's kind of three timelines now that I think about it. Two timelines, three perspectives. So there was a grandma and a granddaughter, and then it followed both their perspectives, and then there was also back in time this dance teacher. So it followed kind of all three of them, but there was just two timelines. So it would just follow the grandmother and the granddaughter in this timeline, and then the dance teacher in this one. But I didn't like the granddaughter very much, and I didn't really like her relationship. I think it might have been higher if I liked them, but I didn't really like their romance. But I mean, it was fine. I didn't hate it, but when you don't like one of the perspectives, it kind of brings down the book. Next was Yellow Crocus by Lila Ibrahim. Which is Yellow Crocus #1. I didn't realize there was a #2, but I liked it. I don't think I'll be continuing on. I gave it 3.75. It is about, it follows two perspectives, but it's one storyline. So it follows a wet nurse and the girl that she nursed back right before the Civil War. So it was happening 20, 40 years right before the Civil War started. And normally wet nurses nurse the baby of the plantation owner for just a year, and then they're cut off so that way they don't get ties to them. But this little girl got really sick. She got pneumonia or something, and then she wouldn't drink anything, so they brought the wet nurse back in just so she would drink something, and then she got attached, and she was able to stay with the family longer than they normally would. And so this girl grew up with her wet nurse and saw that the slaves were just normal people, and she learned to care for them, and it follows her storyline from birth up until adulthood. So it follows both of them, kind of both their perspectives, and it was good. We read it for book club because we were reading the way through the alphabet, 2 letters a month, so that was our Y book. We actually finished it in January though, because 26 doesn't fit into 12 months. So we finished Y and Z in January. Next, I did Paradise of the Blind by Tu Huang Zhuang. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Sorry if I'm not. But this one I got in a Worthy Traveler box, and it's about North Korea. It's a novel, but it is based on, it's a historical novel, so it's based on real things, but it's not actually a real story. But I gave it a 4.25. I liked it. It was very interesting. The author has an interesting story. So she was part of the Communist Party initially, and then she didn't like what was happening. She became a soldier in their war, and then she didn't like what was happening, and then she later left, and now she's anti-communist. So she's had both sides, and she's older now. She's 60s or something. But she has an interesting perspective, and I felt like the story, I don't know, I'm obviously not from North Korea, but I felt like the story seemed like an accurate perspective. It told some of the more the things that were important to the families, their history and their ancestry and all those things that you don't want to give up. But then it also told about the political parts that made life hard for them, and the changing of the regimes and everything. It went back and forth, and some people suffered a lot more than they needed to when they were good people. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I recommend it. And it's actually, I think it was the first novel that was translated out of the country, I believe. But it was good. Gleam is the Prisoner number 3 that I read. This one I gave 3.75. I liked it. I just remember it dragged a little bit in the middle, but it continued the story good. Yeah. Next I read Power of Five, which was another one that I read as a do I want to back the Kickstarter, because it was a really pretty book, but I just didn't love it. It's a reverse harem story. This human is chosen, so in this world there's like a fae world and the human world, and there's like you can't cross between them, but the fae are in charge of keeping out these demons, and so there are quints, they're called, but it's like a group of 5 normally males that bond together, and it increases their powers, and normally they're from different areas of the fae world. But this quint now is only the second of its kind that has males and females, and it's also unique because it's the first one ever to have a mortal, like a human, as part of the quint. And so they initially want to get the power stripped off of them, but everybody in the quint has to agree to it, and then all of a sudden they all start falling, all the fae men start falling in love with the woman. And she's like having relations with all of them, and there's like controversy and politics and stuff. It was good. I mean, I read number 2 now. I'll probably like slowly continue on ebook, but I didn't love it enough to buy it. Next I read 0 Days, which was our Z book for book club, by Ruth Ware. It read like an action movie. It is like a thriller book, but it's not really a thriller. Like, it's kind of like crime-ish. This main character is a what's it called? Oh, I can't remember what they called it. Penetration tester. Because I remember because we all laughed at Book Hook because we're like, penetration, really? But a penetration tester. And her job is to go into security systems to see how secure they are. But she's the one who actually like sneaks in, and then her husband was the one on the back end doing the like tech stuff. And she comes home from a job one night, and her husband is dead, and so like then she goes on the run because the police suspect her, and it's like the whole novel is just her dodging the police and us trying to figure out, and her trying to figure out who did it, who actually killed the husband. I gave it a 3.5. It was amusing. It was a quick, easy read, but it was not very accurate or like believable, I guess is a good word. She gets like seriously impaled, like her like spleen or liver or something is punctured for days, and she's like in sepsis. And I don't know, there's a whole bunch of things that are not believable. But it was easy enough. I like Ruth Ware books. I read The It Girl too. I don't love them, but I like them. And then the last book I finished was The Court of Silver Flames, because I was reading that in preparation for Crescent City 3. Because it was the last book that was actually released before Crescent City 3. Like, House of Sky and Breath comes before, is like the second in the series, but she wrote Silver Flames after number 2. Because she's like going between the series, if that makes sense. But I read it. I actually, I gave it a 3.75. I actually liked it more the second time than the first time. I've never been a huge Nesta fan, but I really like how she rounds out the story by the end of the book, and I like the relationships and the friendships that are created, and like the messages that she puts in the story. I just don't like Nesta all that much, which is sad, but overall I like the book. I just don't like Nesta, but that's okay, because I still like the book at the end. And I'm glad I reread it. Yeah. So that rounds out my January month. 16 books. I can try and get the stats here quick. Let's see what my stats were. Mostly adventurous and dark. My top 3 moods were adventurous, dark, and emotional, which I have a feeling are always going to be top 3 moods. Then pace, I read 47% medium pace and 40% fast. I was a pretty even split for page number, 1/3 for each. I read only fiction, and my top genres were fantasy and romance. And then half my books were digital, and then audio and print divided up the other half. And my average rating was a 3.88, which is pretty good. So yeah, those were my stats. it's good that I'm going through all of them, saying the meh ones and the best ones. Um, yeah, I guess we'll see you next time for February soon. Bye.